What was something your sibling did that you could never forgive them for? When I was 12, my older brother Danny was my hero. He was 18, captain of the football team, had a full scholarship to college, and always made time to help me with homework and drive me to soccer practice. Our parents were struggling financially, but Danny made everything feel stable and safe. Then one day, he just left. No goodbye, no explanation. He packed his stuff while I was at school and disappeared, left behind his scholarship, his girlfriend, his entire future. My parents were devastated, and I was heartbroken. The brother who had promised to always be there for me had vanished without a word. For years, I fantasized about him coming back and explaining himself, but he never called, never wrote, never showed up for birthdays or holidays. When I graduated high school, I kept looking for him in the crowd, but he wasn't there. Same with college graduation, my wedding, the birth of my daughter. I convinced myself Danny was selfish, that he'd chosen his own freedom over family responsibility. My parents rarely talked about him, but I could see the pain in their eyes whenever his name came up. But that was just the beginning of understanding who my brother really was. Last month, I was cleaning out my dad's attic after he moved to assisted living. In a box of old papers, I found something that stopped me cold. Bank statements from 15 years ago showing monthly deposits of $1,200 into my parents' account, all from someone named D. Martinez. Martinez was our mother's maiden name. The deposits started the month after Danny left and continued for over a decade. I confronted my parents, and after years of keeping his secret, they finally told me the truth. The night before Danny disappeared, our dad had been diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's disease. The medical bills were going to bankrupt us, and Dad would likely lose his job within a few years. Danny had been planning to use his scholarship to become a teacher, but teachers don't make enough to support a family of 4 plus medical expenses. What he did next changed all our lives. Danny gave up his scholarship and enlisted in the military, not for adventure or to escape, but because the signing bonus and steady pay could support our family immediately. He knew that if he told me the truth, I'd try to talk him out of it, and if he stayed for a long goodbye, he might lose his nerve. For 15 years, Danny has been sending most of his military pay home to cover Dad's medical bills, my college tuition, and countless family expenses. He served 3 tours overseas, got promoted to sergeant, and built a career he never wanted, all to take care of us from a distance. My parents had begged him to let them tell me, but Danny insisted on carrying the burden alone. He thought it was better for me to think he'd abandoned us than to feel guilty about the sacrifices he was making. He wanted me to focus on my own life, not worry about him. The bank statements showed he'd been sending money even during his deployments in Afghanistan. Even when he was in danger, he never missed a payment. The brother I thought had abandoned us had actually been our guardian angel for 15 years. I found his current address and drove 8 hours to his base last weekend. When I knocked on his door, he looked exactly like I remembered, but older, tired, wearing a uniform instead of a football jersey. When he saw me, he started crying immediately. "I'm sorry," he kept saying. "I'm so sorry I left you." I told him he had nothing to apologize for, that he'd been the best big brother anyone could ask for, even from 1,000 miles away, that every opportunity I'd had, every chance our family got to stay together was because of his sacrifice. We talked for 12 hours straight. He showed me photos he'd kept of our family, newspaper clippings of my achievements he'd somehow gotten copies of, letters he'd written but never sent. He'd been watching over us the whole time, just from the shadows. Danny retires from the military next year. For the first time in 15 years, he's coming home for Christmas. My daughter finally gets to meet the uncle who's been sending her birthday cards through our parents, signed from a friend. Sometimes the people who love us most are the ones who sacrifice everything in silence, asking for nothing but hoping we'll understand someday that leaving was the only way they could stay.